Hey guys, welcome to the first of this kind. You're here with the one and only AJ from Jibber and Jabber, which I'm going to share more information about. It's a new podcast. Actually, how long have you been around for?
It's been about since the beginning of the quarantine. When everything stopped, I started.
Okay,
So
okay.
it
So
was
a
yeah,
quarantine COVID-19 inspired podcast. It's some really, really cool stuff. I've
exactly.
done an interview on there. I'm going to put it below and I'm going to give all the links. But the reason that we're here today is AJ's got the courage to do something for the first time that nobody has done. And this is what we're going to call the 10-day growth hacking challenge. And the 10-day growth hacking challenge is based on this book here that I've recently wrote, which is Growth Thinking. It's a design methodology used for growth hackers, and it's been used by some of the world's top growth hackers. And I use this to train people who are new to growth hacking, don't know anything about it, or really want to get into it. So if you're an entrepreneur with a business that you really want to explode in the sense of growth, or you're having trouble growing an existing business, even if you're a one-man business, a 20-man business, a 300-person business, this still applies. I talk a lot more about growth hacking. I'll give more resources a bit later on, but we're going to dig into today's session, and we're going to growth hack AJ's podcast. And the way this contest works, or this competition, the way it works is you get 10 days and you develop 3 growth hacks. Today we're going to talk about how to get that started, to get focused on where we're going to go, discuss some of the ins and outs of how to go about it. And then AJ is going to take the growth hacking book and then he's going to start designing his growth hacks using this system. He has 3 days per growth hack. So 3 days, 3 growth hacks. And then we're going to review each one of them after 3 days. And then at the end, we're going to take a look at all of them. And we're going to take a look at where AJ is going to go after that. So I run a program after that, which I call the All-Star Group. And the All-Star Group are those, there's 20 design, like there's basically 20 ways you can design a growth hack in here. And so we're only doing 3 in this challenge. And if you continue with the rest, it becomes part of the All-Star program. So I hope to see AJ as part of the All-Star program, right? So
Oh yeah, for sure. All stars. I'm going to be there right at the end, mate. I'm going to be one of the
you be the first
one
one,
of the
man.
old guys telling everyone. Yeah, I remember when we started this All Star cast.
Exactly. So you're the first guy, and I think where we're going to start is I think the best thing is to tell us a little bit more about you, your podcast, and what are you thinking about growth hacking and why, and then let's fine tune where to start so we know what we're going to do in the next 10 days.
Amazing, amazing. So basically, the podcast that I do here, I interview celebrities and we highlight the interesting people, the people of note who are in Dubai. So it goes from anybody who's a movie star down to somebody that people might not know but is super super interesting. Because as you know, when it comes to the social media world, there's people who are really out there, and there's people who are not, but they're doing 20 times more than the people who have a million followers. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
So the idea is to just really highlight, the idea is to really highlight the people that are really interesting and that have that people can learn from the episode, and they'll watch that and they'll be like, oh wow. For example, your episode, the amount of people that were just like, dude, that guy's a beast. Like they were just messaging me after and just saying that was the most informative hour that I've spent in the last year since lockdown.
Okay.
and
Okay.
and that's what we're going for. We're trying to make people think, we're trying to make people, enjoy the time that they waste, because you only have a certain amount of time, waste it well. So at least if they're going to spend time watching something, they're going to be gaining something from it at the same time. So it's not just like you're watching some empty footage and it's just like you've learned nothing, you've gained nothing, and you've just wasted a whole hour of your life. So that's
Absolutely.
the idea of where I'm going with this. And yeah, it's just amazing to do. The community that has been built already and the community that's building around it of people and new friends that have developed friendships from it, it's just amazing, and something that I just want to keep doing and doing and doing.
Yeah, no, I'm sure like this is gonna really escalate. Like I think one of the things that you've done recently, and by the way, congratulations for the coverage you've just received, which is a growth
Thank you.
hack in itself. So AJ, after my interview, AJ had a really cool concept where he goes 50 meters, right? It's the highest podcast in the world. That's right?
Yeah,
And it
50 meters on a giant dinner table suspended off a crane.
and he gets a Guinness World Record. You get it, or you're going to get it? How does that work?
Well, we applied for it, and then now they just have to confirm it, and then yeah, we'll get it after that. If they gave me the rules before, it has to pass 4 things, and then yeah, we did everything right, so hopefully we will get it.
Awesome. So what AJ has done here, this is where like he's identified a gap and he's just nailing it where there's no other guy or anybody in the podcasting space is going. And so part of growth hacking, we look at like 4 areas. We look at limitations, gaps, holes, and combinations. And so this is like a matrix that we use for looking where to actually growth hack and generate and discover what kind of growth hacks to do. And so what I like about this is that you're doing something that nobody else is doing, right? So this is like a completely, you can call it like a blue ocean or a white space. There's so many names for this, but you're taking that risk and going into an area where others are not going and getting the recognition, and then you got that excellent coverage. And when you told me about it, if you notice, the first thing I said is like, how do we get you more of it, and how do we scale it, and then how do we monetize it? Because you know, having so these one-offs are what I call spikes, and spikes are like the most dangerous thing in growth, but they're so exciting. So I'll say like a spike is like doing cocaine, right? You get the first, get like the first experience, and then you start chasing, that experience for the rest of your life, which doesn't work out. And that's the problem with like a sudden spike. So what we're always looking for is like a rising horizon where we build momentum over time, and that perpetual growth in that momentum actually develops on its own, and you find yourself chasing your own growth, which is always a nice feeling rather than you chasing that consistent spike. So I think this is like a really good place to start. Have you given any thoughts? I mean, what you want to growth hack? I know you've been experimenting and discussing several different things. Where do you see this going?
Yeah. Well, this is the interesting thing with this one as well, is because initially it was, let's do a world record and let's do a podcast that's a bit different. But then what I've started to do is, after I've spoken to a few friends who, you know, work in the tourism industry out here and that kind of stuff, people have started to say, well, okay, well, let's start getting you the last podcast of every month in a different big location in Dubai that's well known or whatever. So let's do one on a yacht. Let's try and get one on the top of Burj Al Arab. Let's try and get one, you know, on a helipad somewhere. So where every episode, so I'll have the guest on there, but it will be something that is, you know, that at the end of the month, something different is going to come. So that also adds another kind of a bit of excitement to it, a bit of intrigue to, okay, what's this guy going to do next?
Yeah, exactly. So excellent guests, exciting locations, really cool narrative, right? If we were to break it into those kind of 3 elements. And so, okay, so how do you see that? How do you see growth hacking that? So let's say there's like, Dubai, you're lucky because it has like a ton of really cool places to go to. It's like almost endless, but there is a limitation to it. It's like maybe it could be 25 or 50. I don't know what that number is. And I think that can build out like either a whole annual calendar for you, right? So you got one per month and you've got 12, you've got like 1 year worth of really cool content. And I think what's interesting is like, how do you make that more exciting for those 12 slots, but how do you make what's in between, which is like kind of I don't want to call it the filler content, because I think you'd be doing really good tier 1 content in between as well. But how do you continuously leverage that so that whenever you're doing that one off every month that's like really top notch, and you got 12 of them in a year, what are you doing in between to continuously perpetuate your growth?
I think that the important thing is, like you said, to not class them as filler podcasts, because they are the main ones. If anything, it's in reverse. The main ones would be the ones during the week, and this is a gift, if you would say.
Bonus, I got it. An exciting bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Like so like a magnet. This is more like a magnet to get people to become aware of the podcast, basically.
Exactly. So it's a point of interest. It's a piece of content that is a bit different, that can drag the eye across, you know, to the videos, and you know, maybe, for example, I mean, the podcast world is very weird. So you'll get people who they would watch it, even if, for example, this one would get more views than the one if I'd use the same guest in the studio, but the conversation pretty much would be exactly the same. So it's about how to convert that into making it that people want to watch every episode as opposed to just those ones.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And so what are your thoughts around that to keep it keep that kind of consistency of what you're trying to do? So keeping people consistently excited, even though you've got like the big bonus or the big magnet that you put into the month for a year, what will you do in between to keep it just really jumping up and down? Not up and down, but keep it going like this with super excitement.
I think it's got to be. I think it's mainly going to be the quality of the guests. As long as the quality of the guests are good, then people will be, you know, tuning in. Also, what I was thinking of doing is doing a weekly podcast by myself as well, which would be, for example, the weekly jab. So it'd be me going over everything that's happening in the week that's just passed, and it's a more personal view of myself, because even though I am myself on the podcast and we are having a laugh and everything, I can't really express myself as much as I would like to, because it's not about me. It's mostly about the guest. So I wouldn't want to get a guest on there who's got so much information to do, but then I keep interrupting and keep talking just so I can get my kind of, my thoughts out, because that kind of defeats the purpose of an interview or of telling people who this person is. So I think a weekly one, not only would it be keeping people kind of coming because there'll be more content coming out, it'll be more regular. It will also give people another side of me that they don't already see or might not have seen as of yet.
No, I think that's pretty cool, because
thing to
that's
do.
almost like thought leadership as well. Because in one, okay, so a podcaster's forgive the example, there's almost kind of like a journalist. So if a journalist consistently covers the tech sector, for example, or a specific niche within tech, and eventually the journalist builds a perspective on that particular niche or that sector, and they have a very unique view that builds over time. And so I think like people become not also interested in the personalities, but the view of the journalist who builds a personality with time, because they become so interested. It's almost like, what was that? There was that very famous guy. He was on CNN, last name Bourdain, Anthony Bourdain, right?
Anthony Bourdain, yeah.
Anthony Bourdain's a perfect example of this, right? So here he is covering all this exotic eating experiences around the world, but he himself was a very interesting personality. And with time, it started to come out because people became interested in him himself, Anthony Bourdain, rather than just the show itself. So, it's kind of, there's a parallel there. And I think you need to figure out how to do that balance where you've got that, so you've got now, end of the week, you've got your exciting bonus, you've got your commentary. What are you going to call it, by the way?
The end of the one, or the one in the middle, the commentary?
The commentary. Do you have a name for it, or do you have a...
Yeah, I think that's gonna be called the weekly jab.
The weekly jab, okay. And that's
Because of the man named Jabber.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
It works well with the vaccine as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get
Exactly.
jab with jabber, Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should open my own little vaccine center, and then they can pay a bit more and get a jab from me.
Exactly, yeah. A different kind of jab. You should play on it, right? Because it's so popular in the media right now. So first growth hack is what you're doing with the tourism people. I think that's really cool. And there's somebody that I met recently that I actually want to introduce you to, who I think will have an excellent synergy with you. I'm just waiting for them to reach out. So more than happy to do that. I think there's going to be a very good synergy there. The second part is like the in-between. So you've got the commentary, you've got the excellent guests. And then I think it's like building the audience, right? I mean, I know that that's a challenge in any kind of content related business. You need to be discovered somehow, right? So you can create the best content in the world, but if people don't know about it, then, where does it go, right? And this happens to some really, really powerful influencers, by the way. So there's some influencers that I've been following for many years, and their content is like tier one, top notch, but their audience is really small, but very potent. And so with time, it's like again, the rising horizon, not the sudden spike. So it's not like Tony Robbins with like 1 million followers overnight, just hypothetically, of course. But this is like guys that have built like tier one content and a very potent audience slowly over time. And some of these guys, they seem really weird in the beginning. And I've referred them to some people and say, hey, this guy's content is really good. And this guy's going places. And I'd always get the comments like, oh, but he doesn't have many followers. People are not really engaging with his content because they're just looking at raw numbers. They're looking at quantity, not quality. And then with time, as they build up, there's another guy who started out just like this. He's the impact theory guy, Tom. I can't remember his I don't even know how to pronounce his last name very well. But you know the impact theory guy, right? The guy that does impact theory.
No, I don't know him.
Okay, I'll send it to you. So he started out a lot like that, right? Just producing super good quality content. He invested heavily in making it work, and then he just kind of took off slowly, and then now he's just in a completely different world. So I see the same kind of thing happening with you, where it's like you're building this super potent audience that is always waiting and wanting to engage and support. And they don't have to be the biggest audience, they grow with time. So we've had instances with some other growth hacks that we've done, and there's a big problem in the influencer world where everybody thinks the bigger the audience, the better the results, which is not true. The real power is in
Yes.
the micro influencers, people with smaller audiences, but very potent capability to reach that audience. So whatever it is that they may recommend or talk about has a lot more impact than somebody that may have millions. And it's a bit hard to believe when you first hear about it, but we kept seeing these numbers repeat over and over and over again. And so with time, we became so much more focused on micro influencers rather than mega influencers. Plus, mega influencers are really difficult to deal with. Yeah, they
Yeah,
can.
I totally understand. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. Like for a brand that deals with kids products and nappies and that, they're much rather going to want a mother who all of her audience is other mothers and other
Exactly.
people dealing with the same stuff to promote through them. They're not going to promote nappies with someone who has 1 million followers and sells watches.
Yeah.
So it's very specific, their audience, and they know that they can trust the audience and the audience trusts them. I think trust is really important
100%.
in what you're doing.
100%. So we're going to talk in 3 days, and then in another 3 days, another 3 days to review your growth hacks. Have you pinpointed it from now what you want to do? Like, for example, I think I mentioned these before. So there's a few approaches. There's like one single growth problem, and then a single growth hack that you keep improving over time. The other way is like you focus on a single problem, but you try multiple, you test with that kind of multiple growth hacks, or you go multiple on multiple. So you're looking at multiple problems with multiple growth hacks. It gets more complicated, as I mentioned to you, I think, before. But do you know what direction you'd like to take with that?
I mean, I think I'd like to light myself on fire and run ahead at it, in a sense where I'm not scared to try and take on more than one. I know what you mean with the one, but for example, as we were talking about before, with the websites and the SEOs and the getting your content out there where more people are going to see it is also as important as trying to get a cool venue for an episode that might go viral. So I think the most important ones are those two. It's the guests and the tourism part and doing that. But at the same time, it's also figuring out how to get this website up there, get these use these programs that will change it, transliterate it into text and that stuff. So that your numbers will also, it's going to be, like you said before, it's going to be easier to be found.
Discoverability.
It's amazing me doing, it's amazing me, bringing in all these people. But if no one's seen, I've had a guest on one of my episodes, and he is a very, 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 very big name, but he ended up getting 500 views. Do you know what I mean? Where he did, if you look at his numbers, what happened to all of the people?
Yeah.
So it's because it's not discoverable as much as it should be.
Yep.
Then some are getting lost in the translation and lost in the videos. So I think it's really important I think organization as well, especially when it's one person kind of doing everything. It's not like I've gone to somebody said to me, hey, you're a personality. We have this podcast. We have 20 staff. He's going to manage the social media. He's going to manage the internet. He's going to edit. He's going to do that.
Yep.
That where it's just me, a cameraman and an editor, it's kind of like you have to kind of be more on the point in the beginning to get everything going. But at the same time, the opportunities are coming and people are coming and people want to get involved, and which is good. So I'm doing something right in that regard. So
Yep. Agreed.
It's fun. More than anything, it's fun. So that's what's going to keep me doing it longer and putting more time and more passion into it, because I really enjoy doing it, and I really enjoy doing it for other people. I almost enjoy, as much as I enjoy doing the interviews, I almost enjoy other people's reactions to watching them than me doing them myself.
Yeah. No, that's really important that you're extremely passionate about what you're doing. And you pointed out something, really important, where when you scale, you'll have these kinds of resources. So the growth hack that we're trying to put in place is how do we get you to scale to get to that point where you've got a 20-man team that is able to undertake each one of these tasks that you need to do. And so I think the discoverability part is probably one of the biggest things you need to tackle, because you got three things that you're gonna achieve with discoverability. You're gonna get media, right? Media coverage, like the one that you just got today. Yeah. Discoverability will help with that. Mm-hmm. Then there's the audience who's going to actually watch and build up your podcast. And then there's the people that you want to interview. And so you want to be in a position where you can attract very good quality people, but you'd also like very good quality people reaching out to you saying, hey, that's a podcast that I would like to be on. Let me reach out. And I think there's a few different growth hacks that can be very powerful in that space. But I think we need to get the basics in place. And I think I guess we can agree that the very first growth hack is probably getting your content machine in place, which is essentially getting your website, streamlining the transcription of the existing content, getting them SEO optimized so that you're at least discoverable by search engines. You're already on YouTube, so there's some YouTube tricks and tactics that can be used. I think I shared one with you, right?
Yes, with in the description box.
Yeah, the description. So this one got
Yes.
featured in a best-selling book, by the way. So there's 100 is part of the 100 top growth hacks, and they featured my growth hack as one of the top ones for YouTube. So we know what we'll do with you on that one. So
Nice, exactly.
we need that because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, right? So it's like, it's not rocket science. And then you need to hit up Google. So you hit those two. It doesn't mean you ignore anything else. There's ways of getting in all those places at once in easy ways. The good news is that there's a lot of tech and tools that can help automate that are very cost effective. In some cases, some of them are free or very, very low cost, and you don't need much skill to use either, which is brilliant. We live in an amazing world. You just need to know where to go and how to get it done. Yeah.
You need to know when That's what you need.
Yeah. Okay, man.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Awesome. So we'll see you in 3 days. We'll get cracking.
3 days, I'm in.
And we go from there.
Let's do it. I'm looking forward to it, man. Appreciate you thinking of me to get me in there. And then we're going to have to get someone else involved straight after me.
Think about the next contender. Awesome.
That's it. We'll do it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. See you in 3 days.
See you soon.